So, this episode will be called Attunement to Karma, and this is not specifically an astrological episode, but rather one that is working with an understanding of karma as something that is occurring on a level of the spheres. So, in the same way that we referenced in the first episode here, William Blake's Eternity in an Hour, A World in a Grain of Sand, Heaven in a Wildflower, this concept of the spheres, the cosmic spheres, and an attunement to them. There's also, in this archetypal understanding that we're cultivating in the practice of astrology or divination or philosophy or mythology or psychology, all of these studies of nature, right, which are studies of nature that are occurring at a metacognitive level. So, in our studying and practice of these metacognitive disciplines, we begin to have a clearer understanding of when a karmic archetype is activated or reactivated. And there's, in this sense, the karma of the archetype is the archetype coming again, or the recurrence of the archetype. And so in Nietzsche, we have this idea or concept of the eternal recurrence, which practically is the becoming again of being, in the sense that the becoming again is a cycle that we have not yet seen in a new way. So, in the sense that spring comes again, but there's a difference about spring, this remarkable difference, which is that spring is happening again, but differently. This sense is a sense that we cultivate as an attunement to the karmic recurrence of the archetype, which might be called, in a Jungian sense, synchronicity. But a deeper understanding of synchronicity is that we are tracking a historical development of the coming again of the archetype, so that we don't just have this feeling or sensation of synchronicity. We do have it. It's a felt, lived experience of, okay, this is happening in such a way that it is connecting to previously unconnected points in space or time, or that they're happening simultaneously. But rather, this archetype is coming again and coming to pass, not necessarily in a way of sameness, but it is revealing an undercurrent of karmic energy or life force energy that is again reaching a certain point or seeking culmination or resolution. So we can observe this in our lives with the teachers we have, the friends we have, the lovers we have. And again, this is all being in relationships. So we can refer to the astrological principle of the planetary orbit, right, or cycles of planetary relationships between one cosmic body and another cosmic body, and the way that they unite and disperse, and separate, form an opposition, and unite again. We can form a deeper understanding of what exactly any sort of karma entails, in that it's an archetypal encounter or a re-encountering or an about face in which we catch a glimpse of an archetypal significance as it relates to the soul and the soul journey, but one that is occurring in a slightly different way, as in an urging forward. Any sort of karmic encounter, again, is going to invoke the evolutionary imperative of to engage this encounter wholeheartedly and come to understand that which the archetypal experience is seeking to signify, which is to say, to uncover the essential meaning beneath the symbol, right? The life force energy which is contained within the archetypal symbol. Whereas we say Mars is the principle of action, right? But that active energy within the archetype and symbol and even planetary body of Mars is not necessarily an image. And by no means is it actually an image. It's an active life force energy. In the same way that we might describe Venus as the receptive or the vessel, right? Or the womb. Um, these are not images, right? And we can reach at them and poke at them with language, but they're ultimately always already deeper than the symbolic language that's being leveraged to describe them. in that they are life force energies themselves in the way that the gods were formerly conceived. They were breaths of life. A notification on the laptop here. So to continue here, with the karmic recurrence of the archetype, which is to say there is a cycle of becoming, or a samsara, or a maya, or a projection or illusion of being, in which, in one way or another, our soul is seeking resolution. I almost said revolution. Resolution through the cycling of desire, right, or the staying upon the wheel in order to experience in such a way that I'm going to evoke this. This is from with Ari a little bit earlier. You know something is resolved when you can look at it and feel peace, right? So any sort of primary tension, right, the lived experience and feeling of tension or friction, this is something that you can feel, right? It's just basic reality. A friction between another planetary body, another person, a desire, a feeling, any of these frictions that are occurring within and as the psychic state, right? The psychic state is just our relation to being proper at any given moment in time. Lived, conscious relation to being, the psychic state. Any sort of tension or friction that's occurring or feeling within the body, within the body, in relation to something quote unquote without the body, is seeking integration precisely because of that binary or that duality, conceived duality or dualism, that in reality is non-existent, but is created synthetically for the precise purpose of a reintegration or coming into wholeness or becoming into wholeness. So when we have these karmic experiences, what they are in their truest form is dreams. A karmic experience or a recurrence of the archetype is that the dream is coming again in a slightly changed form to suggest something that is being suggested in the root basin and bowl of the psyche, as in an archetypal experience that is seeking integration into the soul in terms of a becoming whole. Stan Groff talks about this in the concept of holotrophy, right, or holotrophy. Um, this becoming into wholeness, and this is the journey of the soul, and it's also the journey of the quote unquote the universe, right, in the sense that the soul and the universe are integrating psychic material, integrating cosmic material. The psychic material and the cosmic material are simultaneous. We have studies by MIT where we now understand that the universe is composed 99% of plasma, right? And what does that evoke? The bioplasma, which is 50% of the blood in the body, right? These substances which compose in a very fluid sense the very structure and essence and nature of what we conceive of as the quote unquote physical reality are always in relationship with one another, and in this sense are forming relative networks. And in this relative networking, there are intersections, there are crossroads, there are turning points, right? In the sense that we are in the lived experience finding new directives and ways to navigate situations which are eternally recurring, as in the lived experience itself. That the soul is coming again into life and seeking new orientation, new direction, or a way in which to be directly and intimately related to, with, and as being itself proper. And in this order, and by way of this order, the archetypal recurrence is precisely the point of tension, the point of friction, or the point of restriction, or the bound at which the soul reaches, which is to say, consciousness reaches and feels itself hit a wall, right, or hit a limit. And this limit is the limit of which how far it has gone. So when I say in this Saturn cycle, right, Saturn has gone this far into Aquarius and it has not yet gone any farther in this continuance, right, in the sense that the cycle has reached its furthest most point before initiating a new cycle, is to say that the archetype is adventuring again through the cosmos to a point of reintegration or resolution within the start of the new cycle, right? Or we could say Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries, right, which would be the the Aries equinox of Saturn, right, something along those lines. Um, this reintegration point where it is born again into the I am formation or figuration from the waters of Pisces, the waters of consciousness, that this archetype is reaching a point where it has already been. Saturn has already been in Aquarius at 20 degrees many times throughout recorded human history and otherwise, right? But it has not reached this point in the specific archetypal configuration with the nodes, with the existing planets where they are, stationed where they are. The knowledge of those planets, right? The incorporation of Pluto into the astrological consciousness in the early 1900s, knowledge of the planetary nodes in the way that we know them now, the disciplines in which we know them now, the ways to apply information uh, to and from the cosmological chart that we know now, various different cultures and disciplines that have come together in a multidisciplinary history. Saturn is coming again, but it is coming in an entirely different fashion. And to grasp this cosmologically is to grasp psychologically or psychically the reason of archetypal karma or the karmic archetype recurring or coming again in order to integrate at a soul level, to integrate the essential material of the archetype, the understanding of the relationship, right? Saturn in relation to Earth or teacher in relation to student, the understanding of the relationship as ultimately, again, I'll motion back to, you know something is resolved when you can look at it and feel peace, which is to say the relationship is resolved, not absolved, right? Or not absolved of responsibility, but that it is resolved as in reincorporated or reintegrated to the point of which the dynamic may still exist on a material plane or physical plane in the sense that there are two forms or figurations, but those forms or figurations are recognized equally as pure consciousness, right? In the sense that they arise as pure life force energy. They appear to arise. They have the appearance, as I've used in several of my essays, the term appearance. They appear to arise, but they've never left, right? They've never been born. They've never left the cosmic womb of being, right? They appear to be becoming, and that even as we understand this, right, we can have this philosophical understanding or the underpinning or foundation or fundamental uh, understanding of the essence, right, whatever it is. But um, we still have these lived experiences, right, where we believe we've integrated some archetypal information and then more archetypal information arises to be integrated, right? And it's hard to say whether this process really ever begins or ends, right? Because we're in this state of being, right, which just practically this state of the being and the stillness at the center, right, is the witness or the observation, right, the pure witnessing consciousness of Aquarius, right, the true intelligence without interpretation, the pure seeing and witnessing of this unfolding, of this becoming. Ari says, looking from the seats of the stadium onto the horse race of the planets or something, or the chariots of the planets, and we're witnessing this happening. And from the still center of the universe, we're observing this becoming, and it it's a theater, right? In the sense that the lived experience of the soul is a participation, and what we understand, right? And I think one of the fundamental understandings is that we have a choice as to how we view this becoming, right? And that if we forget it is a theater or a cosmic play, right? And we become so over invested that we lose our Aquarian true intelligence without interpretation. We lose our ability to witness, right? Or observe from the eagle eye, right? Or the eagle's perch. If we lose that ability by becoming too immersed in the becoming itself, um, there will be this sense of being in and being on the wheel, in the sense of samsara, or the cosmic game in which there is, in the bastardization of the Sartre term, right? There's no, quote unquote, no exit. Um, and that is again from a participation, which is a full engagement in which we become invested in the pieces on the board, right? Or the archetypes become so real that they are divested of their fundamental essence in nature, which is life force energy or pure consciousness proper. They are divested of that, and instead they become so real that they exist as separative or divisions or real figures, that their essence is their character, or their essence is their role. And great Hannah Arendt quote, from the Eichmann trials, where she's talking about Eichmann. She says, he's not Iago, he's not Macbeth, he's not Richard, who, I don't know what the quote is seeking to become malice or become malevolent or something like that, or really that he even embodies any malevolent or quote unquote evil energy proper, but it's that he is unaware of what he's doing, or unconscious of what he's doing beyond his own desire for self-advancement. So he's not even able to see beyond his own immediate desire for self-gratification or uh, self-improvement in the world, as it were, to the point of which there are these acts of atrocity that are committed precisely because of a ignorance that ends here, or an ignorance that ends at the body, or the character, the archetype, or the role that is being played at a cultural level. So there's the consciousness that is not defined by the construct. And again, the true intelligence, which is necessarily, in a Uranian sense, Aquarius, beyond the limitation, Saturn, and beyond the interpretation of the limitation, Jupiter, which is at the forefront and vanguard as in pure consciousness proper. The Saturn and Jupiter dynamic, Jupiter interpretation, Saturn limitation, is a dynamic which continually references and is within reference of the linguistic bounds and borders and space-time controls or disciplines or structures of the universe as in that which exists now. Aquarius is the now moment itself, right? Which is the archetypal information that we are attempting to integrate with the Jupiter interpretation into becoming the language. The karmic recurrence of this information is that which is pure consciousness, but is being perceived as something different, as a threat, as something that is in advance of pure consciousness, as something that is elevated into a hierarchy within, as, or beyond pure consciousness, as in any form of projection or image that is taken for pure consciousness itself, as in a created screen of the soul. And this, of course, we're speaking about this with language. We're doing it intellectually or whatever, right? And so this is a lived experience, and it has to be lived. And the choice here, the choice point is, again, in the evolutionary sense, to turn towards that evolution, to really face that archetypal recurrence, or the karmic occurrence of, or recurrence of the samsara, or the Maya aspect, the illusion aspect, which is something that may or may not continue to arise. And whenever it does arise, you approach it with the fundamental understanding that this too is being, this too is pure consciousness. There's no distinction. And from that perspective, you can move into it from above, which is to say, how and where and why is this arising? And I can approach this from the even keel and the ground of the groundlessness, which is pure consciousness, and begin to understand a little more, a little better, maybe, about why this archetype is coming back the way it's coming back, and how I can integrate this archetype into my life so it becomes something of a mask, maybe the mask of a shaman, in that I can choose to wear it. Uh, Thanks for joining, and I'll talk to you guys later.